Hello dear students, welcome to IAS Viewpoint, the point of success. Today, let us demystify Global Hunger Index. Then, in a very special way, we'll look into GHI 2020. What is Global Hunger Index? Global Hunger Index is a tool designed to comprehensively measure and track hunger at a global level, regional level, and national level. It is a kind of measurement equipment. It is a kind of tool. It is just not a report or a document. What does it do? It measures and tracks. What does it measure? It measures the hunger. What is the level of hunger existing across the globe? What is the level of hunger existing in different regions like Asia, Africa, Europe, Central Asia, Latin America? These are the different regions in which it tracks the hunger levels. The Global Hunger Index is a peer-reviewed annual report jointly published by Concern Worldwide and Wealth Hunger Health. These two are organizations. Both of them together publish the Global Hunger Index. What is the purpose? It is designed to comprehensively measure and track hunger at a global, regional, and country level. The aim of GHI is to trigger action to reduce hunger around the world. What is the purpose? This report wants to trigger action, push the people to act to reduce the levels of hunger. The primary purpose is to trigger action to reduce hunger. Concern Worldwide. This is an organization which works with the world's poorest people to transform their lives. It is an international humanitarian organization dedicated to tackling poverty and suffering in the world's poorest countries. It works with the poorest people across the world. The purpose of this organization is to transform the lives of the poorest people. Wealth Hunger Health. It's a German organization, a private organization working in Germany, independent of politics and religion. It is nothing to do with the politics of Germany or religion of Germany. It is a voluntary organization working privately. It was established in 1962 as part of Freedom from Hunger campaign. It originated from that campaign. The Global Hunger Index is prepared by these two organizations without hunger. These are the figures, the global and regional hunger index scores with the various components. Before we understand Global Hunger Index in detail, let us understand few words or terms related to this Global Hunger Index. What is hunger? Hunger is usually understood to refer to the distress associated with the lack of sufficient calories. It is associated with a lack of sufficient calories. What is calorie? A calorie is a unit of measurement. It measures or describes the amount of energy the body gets by eating or drinking. If a body eats or drinks, it gets some energy. That energy is described in terms of calories. Calories does not measure length, width, and breadth. It measures or describes the amount of energy the body derives by either eating or drinking. If a person is associated with the lack of sufficient calories, or if a person takes less of minimum required calories, he experiences a kind of feeling. He is associated with the distress, and the distress is called hunger. Remember, hunger, sufficient intake of calories, the feeling of distress, they are interlinked. What is undernutrition? Deficiencies of any one of these four. What are those four? Energy, protein, essential vitamins, and minerals. If an individual has got less of either energy, protein, essential vitamins, or minerals, we consider that individual as undernutritious. What causes undernutrition? If an individual takes inadequate food, if the individual does not take enough quantity of food or enough quality of food, then it causes undernutrition. If an individual utilizes poorly the nutrients, if the nutrients are not utilized properly, or if utilized very poorly, whatever may be the reason may be the infection or illness, these things cause undernutrition. What are the social factors related to undernutrition? Household food insecurity. If the breadwinner of the family or any of the income earning members of the family gets less income, or if those people's income levels are affected, automatically the food security of those households are affected. If the income is affected and the food security is affected, in turn it affects the nutrition levels of the members of those family. Inadequate maternal health or childcare practices. Even now, in some of the developing countries and most of the underdeveloped countries, there are no proper health systems existing. Even if they exist, they are not sufficient. To certain extent, we find in most of the underdeveloped and developing countries that childbirth still taking place not in primary health centers or designated health centers. These factors attribute to undernutrition levels. Inadequate access to health services, safe water, sanitation. All these things may also cause undernutrition. Food Agriculture Organization of the United Nations defines undernourishment as given. Food deprivation or undernourishment is the consumption of too few calories to provide the minimum amount of dietary energy that each individual requires to live a healthy and productive life given that person's sex, age, stature, and physical activity level. See, based on person's physical activity, sex, age, each person's minimum requirement intake levels of calories differ. But whatever may be the difference, there is always the minimum amount of dietary energy that one individual needs to take. If that individual fails to take the minimum amount of dietary energy, it is considered as undernourishment as defined by FAO of the United Nations. What is malnutrition? Malnutrition comprises undernutrition and overnutrition. Malnutrition is not just caused by the poverty only, it is also caused by improper food habits. See, undernutrition we have seen due to deficiencies of the vitamins or minerals or various other requirements. Overnutrition is caused due to unbalanced diets, maybe sometimes consuming too many calories, sometimes consuming junk food. This may cause overnutrition. Low intake of micronutrient rich food. People may take food, but the food they take does not carry enough micronutrients. This also affects malnutrition. What is wasting and stunting? First, let's see stunting. If we find people with low height for their age, we call them stunted people. Let us take, for example, a child of 3 years old. 3 years old child. If that child needs to be 80 centimeters, just for an example, as per international standards or national standards, if a 3-year-old child needs to be 80 centimeters high, but if the child is not of 80 centimeters height, if he is only 60 centimeters or 50 centimeters, then we call the child as stunted. The growth is stunted. If this 3-year-old child is not 80 centimeters high, and if he is only 50 centimeters or 60 centimeters high, we consider this child as stunted child. People with low height for their age. This is just only for example. What is wasting? It's more or less the same, but instead of height, it is to do with weight. If in the very same example, a 3-year-old child needs to be, let's say, 17 kg, 17 kilograms. He has to be 17 kilograms. However, this child is only weighing, let's say, 10 or 8. Then we consider this child as wasted. Now we shall understand the calculation of Global Hunger Index scores. First of all, why are they calculated? We have already seen at the beginning of the session. However, there are a few more points. GHI scores are calculated each year to assess progress and setbacks in combating hunger. There are so many organizations, so many voluntary groups fighting against this evil called hunger. They're combating hunger, but they need to check the progress, how far they have improved, what are the areas for improvement, what are the areas in which they failed, and they need to rectify and move forward. This is the primary purpose for which GHI scores are calculated. And another important thing is to raise awareness and understanding. The general public is not really sure. They just know what is hunger, but the levels of hunger, where exactly it is there, in which areas there is high levels of hunger. Even let's say if a country is hunger free, or it is counted well in a GHI index, still there may exist hunger. All these things are dealt in GHI, and general public gets to know through this index scores. To provide a way to compare levels of hunger between countries and regions, this helps to see where India stands, where Pakistan and China stand, where Nepal stands or Sri Lanka stands, where does South Asia stands and where does Central Asia stand. We can compare the data and find out where exactly is the levels of hunger high, where it is low. And above all, to call attention to those areas of the world where hunger levels are highest, to call attention to where the need for additional efforts to eliminate hunger is greatest. Now we shall see the calculation of GHI scores. How are they calculated? It is a 3-step process. There are 3 steps followed while calculating Global Hunger Index. This index touches upon 4 indicators. It takes into account 4 indicators with 3 dimensions. What are these 3 dimensions? First one is inadequate food supply. It takes into account the availability of food, whether it is available to the sufficient level or not. If it is not sufficient, to what extent it is not sufficient. This aspect is taken care by the parameter undernourishment. Then child mortality. This dimension is taken care by the indicator child mortality under 5. All the children who die before attaining the age of 5 are considered for this indicator. And child undernutrition is taken care by 2 indicators, that's wasting and stunting. We have seen what is wasting and stunting, and there are weightages given to these indicators. The first one, 1/3 weightage, under 5 mortality rate, 1/3 weightage, for wasting 1/6, for stunting 1/6. In effect, it is 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. For all the 3 dimensions, equal weightage is given. But to deal in detail for child undernutrition, it is further subdivided. So this is the composition of global hunger index, as we have seen, 3 dimensions with 4 indicators. Now, what is the first step of calculating? Determine values for each of the component indicators. What they do, what these organizations do is take first one indicator and identify the proportion of population as far as that indicator is concerned. Now let's take for example undernourishment. You take a country and find out what is the population. Let's say population is 100,000. 100,000 is the population of that country, or for example. And how many people are undernourished? 40k people are undernourished. So what is the percentage of people undernourished in that country? 40%. This is how for each indicator they take the data. The prevalence of wasting in children under 5. Now, below 5 years, what is the population? Let's take for example 100 people are below 5 years in that country, and if 5 people are or 10 people are wasted, we take it as 10%. Like that, for each parameter the percentage values are given. Before we understand step 2, we need to understand 2 words. One is standardization, the other is threshold. First we shall see what is threshold. These organizations, along with the other international organizations, carried out a study for 25 years between 1988 and 2013. They have gathered enough data on all those parameters and they have come to some thresholds. What does it mean? For example, if you take the indicator undernourishment, they have considered all the countries in this 25 years and taken out a few countries where there is highest level of undernourishment, and they have come to the conclusion that it is 76.5 is the highest undernourishment in any of the country. Take all the countries, you select any of the country, the level of undernutrition will not cross more than 76.5%. The reason is, after the study, they have considered country where there is highest prevalence of undernourishment. A country which has got highest level of undernourishment is 76.5. What they did was they adjusted that figure, they increased and put a number called 80. Now 80% is the highest level in any country that we can find undernourished population. Though this data is between 1988 and 2013, it is still relevant. Even until this point, the level of undernourishment has not crossed the threshold limit of 80%. What is standardization? In the previous example, We have taken a country called, let's say a country called X. It has got 40% of its population undernourished. 40% of its population undernourished in a country called X. In the first step, they have given 40% to the indicator called undernourishment. In the second step, they standardize and make this figure into 50%. How? They take 80 as the 100. The 40 is 50% of 80. So this country X is considered as 50% undernourished country. They standardize the figure and say it is 50% undernourished. Let's say if the same country has got only 8% undernourished people, it is standardized and considered as 10% undernourished, because the base is taken for 80 and not for 100. 80 is a figure, threshold figure for undernourishment. Like that, for wasting 30% is the threshold limit. For stunting it is 70%. For child mortality it is 35%. These threshold limits are taken as basis, and what is the percentage in the threshold figure is treated in the step 2 process. In the same example, you take 40% of a country is undernourished. We consider that country as 50% undernourished. How? In the step 2, we standardize 40 by 80 into 100. This is a percentage of undernourished people by 80 into 100. 50%. This is how the standardization takes place for all these 4 components. In step 3, the standardized scores are aggregated to calculate the GHI score for each country. So the weightage given is 1/3 for undernourishment, 1/3 for child mortality, 1/6 for wasting, 1/6 for stunting. You just add those figures, and whatever is the score you get is the GHI score. Third step is easy. It is just the addition of the figures we got by giving the weightages 1/3, 1/6, 1/6 and 1/3 for all the 4 indicators. Second step, we just have to understand what is threshold for each parameter and how we standardize based on that threshold limit. And the first is also a very simple one. Just determine and give a value to each parameter. This is how those 3 steps are carried out. GHI scores on a 100-point scale. This calculation results in GHI scores on a 100-point scale, where 0 is the best score, no hunger, 100 is the worst. In practice, neither of these extremes exists. There is some sort of hunger. We don't find a country without hunger, or we don't find 100% people experiencing hunger. While the thresholds were originally established based on the maximum values observed between 1988 and 2013, extending 25 years available data, prior to the methodological review process, these values have not been exceeded since then. These values have not been exceeded since then. Where do the source data for the 4 indicators come from? Multilateral agencies. Agencies like Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, United Nations Interagency Group for Child Mortality Estimation, World Health Organization, Demographic and Health Surveys, and multiple indicator cluster surveys, UNICEF, and various other scholarly documents. How is the severity level calculated? GHI Severity Scale. If the score is below 10, the hunger level is low. If the score is 10 or more but less than 20, it is considered as moderate. It is more than 20, 20 or more but less than 35, the hunger level is considered serious, and 35 and 50 alarming, and more than 50 extremely alarming. Score of India. If we observe Global Hunger Index 2020, India has a score of 27.2. India ranks 94 out of 107 countries. They have surveyed, or the data was available only for 107 countries. Out of those 107 countries, India is 94th. We can understand where we stand. See, it falls under serious category of hunger. So we need to be here. Our aim is to be here. If we observe the various indicators, child stunting rate is 37.4%. Child wasting rate is 17.3%. Undernourishment rate is 14%. And child mortality rate is 3.7%. See, China, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Pakistan, all these countries are ahead of India as per 2020 Global Hunger Index scores. China is in the top 17, Sri Lanka 64th, Nepal 73rd, Bangladesh 75th, Myanmar 78th, Pakistan 88th. We are at 94. Here remember, the first 17 countries, they have not numbered as the first one, second one, third one. They have considered it as a group. First 17 countries were treated as a group and their score was less than 5. Few important findings of the report. The world is not on track to achieve the second sustainable development goal, zero hunger, by 2030. We have 17 sustainable development goals to be reached by 2030. Out of those 17, second one was zero hunger. If we go at this level, it is highly unlikely that we reach or achieve the second sustainable goal, zero hunger, by 2030. At the current pace, approximately 37 countries will fail even to reach low hunger as defined by Global Hunger Index Severity Scale by 2030. So if we go like this, at least 37 countries will not reach the first, if we have seen the table, see, this is low. If the score is less than 10, we consider those countries as low hunger countries. It's a good sign. One of the findings is 37 countries will not reach this if we go at this pace before 2030. Right? Next, these projections do not account for the impacts of COVID-19 pandemic, which may worsen hunger. Remember, this does not take into account COVID-19. The impact COVID-19 created is very huge. If the data comes, the things may be in worst condition. As of now itself, things are not so rosy. And remember, if the impacts of COVID-19 are considered. COVID-19 has made it clearer than ever that our food systems as they stand are inadequate to the task of achieving zero hunger. From the experience of COVID-19, we have seen that things are not going in order and hunger needs to be given a prominent place, and we need to combat the evil called hunger. These elements from The document can be seen and it is sourced from the Hindu. The complete data is sourced from the globalhungerindex.com websites. Please do subscribe to our channel, and we are open to constructive criticism. Thank you.